How are you guys doing? Well, today we're going to talk about watch reviews, the edge of the coin, watch dealers. In the first video we talked about the first side of the coin, sponsored reviews. In the second video we talked about the second side of the coin, the watch flipper. So now it's all about the watch dealers. Well, there's a few different kinds of watch dealers on YouTube. There's even some hybrids too. We'll talk about those and have a little informal chat on that. Well, the second-hand dealers, they're talking about, of course, their second-hand watches. And what you'll see on there is some of them will talk about the luxury watches. So they're luxury watch second-hand dealers. And as you know, they're known to be quite large, some of them have a very large business. So the quality of their videos, they're not full of sound effects and video effects like the sponsor reviews. But they do show off a lot of high-end watches. And they have the inventory to do so. So compared to other types like the watch flippers and the sponsor reviews, they'll have more watches and higher end watches to show. So a typical one could have 410,000 subscribers. So 410K subscribers could be a typical one for the big supermarkets. And they could typically talk about watches like Royal Oak, Patek Philippe, and Rolex. And I think too that when maybe there's a type of luxury watch a little bit soft on the market and they'll have a surplus of them, I think they'll bring them up and show them on YouTube to get people interested in them. So I think that's a big advantage to watch dealers on YouTube, to get people into brands that are soft at the time, or even brands that are very popular but they're selling them at a big premium, but to work people up to buy them because they want to get the highest prices for them. So 410,000 subscribers could be typical for some of the biggest second-hand watch dealers. Now there's some other second-hand watch dealers that could typically have 79,000 subscribers, and they talk about brands like Rolex, Omega, and Cartier. And they do very informative videos. So not as many sound effects, no video effects like the sponsor reviews. But they'll do a lot of information. They'll tell you what the markets are like. They'll tell you about how to care for a watch. They'll tell you about watch dealing. So a lot of different topics. They like to cover a whole range of topics. And they put forth a lot of information. And they're very good to see if you want that information. Insider information sometimes. And they'll have a watch store, and it's more of an online type of store, and it's kind of both. But they talk about watch servicing, and so you can see the difference between the sponsor reviewers and the watch dealers and watch flippers. Of course, these people are watch flippers, but they're businessmen, professionals. Now there's also another kind of dealer on YouTube, and it's an authorized dealer for brand new watches. There's even some that do like the mid-tier and lower tier watches, but they're real authorized dealers, and they have an online store. They could typically have 84,000 subscribers. And they'll talk about watches like Squally, Seiko, Orient, Ocean Crawler, and some of the watches that are they're close to micro brands, but they're not. They're very similar. And they have lots of information to talk about. They'll talk about the watch market too. They'll talk about how-to videos. And lots of information the same. And they'll talk about their watch sales if they have one. And they're very informative videos too. Now there's a certain kind of hybrid now. And what they are is they started off doing sponsor reviews, and now they're linked up with the secondhand dealers. So secondhand luxury watch dealers. So like a hybrid now. You can't really call them a sponsor reviewer, but you can't call them a watch dealer either. So they're like a hybrid. So they're basically working for the watch dealers. And they can have typically 367,000 subscribers. So 367K. And they'll talk about watches like Tag Heuer, Squally, and Tudor, and many other brands. And they'll go through the whole range. Like they'll do luxury watches, and they can do some more common watches too. And I think they just go with whatever they think will bring in a lot of views and gain a lot of interest. And what their purpose is to bring interest towards themselves and their channel. And people will go on to their secondhand dealer that's powering them. So it's like a business venture. So informative videos, how-to videos will go with the new authorized dealers quite a bit. Talking about market prices will go with the secondhand luxury watch dealers quite a bit. They all do videos about how to collect watches, a wide range of topics. What is new? Sometimes they'll do like stuff on vintage stuff with the secondhand luxury watch dealers and the hybrids. And the hybrids are quite a big range. Like some of them will even sell straps. They'll have an Amazon store. Like some of these sponsor reviewers will have an Amazon store and sell straps. So they're kind of got their foot into everything. And another typical hybrid type of watch reviewer will be having about 147,000 subscribers. And they'll do watch reviews such as Zodiac, Omega, and Tudor watches. So as you can see, it gets a little bit confusing because with the hybrids, you don't know if they're really doing a sponsor review. You don't know if they're actually doing a review for the store, the secondhand luxury watch dealer that they're working with. So you don't know really if they're working with them. So they create a little bit of confusion, don't they? And you know, it's a little sickening getting so much confusion from some of these watch channels too. But I'd have to say that some of the secondhand luxury watch dealers that just are secondhand luxury watch dealers are the most straight up. And the same with the new authorized dealers, they're the most straight up too. If they don't have some other hybrid working with them. And I know that one of the secondhand luxury watch dealers, if they do a sponsor review, they're right up honest with it. They'll say, look, this is a sponsor review. I'm doing this for this company. So I want you guys to know. And I would not do a sponsor review without telling you. And that's really the best way to go. I think just to be straight up and honest. And if somebody is a real watch dealer, well, they want to maintain a professional and ethical level of business. Of course, they want to sell watches. And I think they would want to sell the watches that are soft and not selling. They'd want to get people interested in those. And the watches that are really hot, well, they want to get the most money for those. So they're going to really boost those type of watches, in my opinion. So that pretty well concludes it all for the watch dealers. And so the first video was about the sponsor reviewers, which ties in a little bit sometimes with the watch dealers. Some of them are hybrids. And then the watch flipper, which really just want to boost the watches that they plan on selling and want donations too, so they can buy more Rolex, of course, or the watches that are investment watches. But the watch dealers are different than that. But I just want you guys to understand who is working with the watch dealers and who are what I would call the hybrids, and to understand that's important. And the new authorized dealers would typically sell, like I said, Squally, Seiko Orient, and Ocean Crawler, and those kind of watches. That they're not really in the big luxury watches, but they would typically sell a watch that would cost $200, $300, $400, in that range. So any experience that you guys have, or any inside information about any of these kind of watch reviews, are really welcome. And I think it's always important too to notice who does watch reviews, has an Amazon store, and who's selling straps, and who are they linked up with. Because if you see somebody showing off a Rolex watch in their watch reviews, and they're linked up with a secondhand Rolex dealer, well, that tells you something. They could be boosting that watch because they're a sponsor review, right? And 9 times out of 10 they are. They're boosting the watch. They're not going to get a sponsor review and then run down a watch. That just doesn't make sense in how it goes. So for all these watch dealers, YouTube is a means for their advertising. So they advertise their business, they advertise their watches, they advertise the way they do business, and also they're getting their YouTube revenue from, if they have enough subscribers, of course. And people see what they look like, they see what their attitude is, and if people like their character and their personality, it would draw people in to order from their watch store, go in and do business with them, sell their watch to them, get on their website and find out who they are. So it's a good marketing tool. So thank you for your time, you guys, and we'll talk again soon.